Hey y'all, my name is Dar'rell Jones. I'm the Career Programs Manager with BLU Educational Foundation, and thank you for tuning in to Black Student Success Week podcast with BLU. Today I have two outstanding Black men with me. I want you guys to introduce yourselves. Let the crowd know who you are.
I'm Dr. Gamble. I'm the Director of the Office of Black Student Success, and I'm glad to be with you.
I'm Anthony Allen. I'm actually a coordinator here with BLU Educational Foundation. I'm the second vice for the American Legion Post 710, and glad to be here.
Beautiful. Happy to have you both. And so for today's episode, we are focusing on the Ndinkra symbol, Nia Onin, which reminds us that knowledge is a lifelong journey. And so with that, I'm going to ask you both, when you think about this Ndinkra symbol and it reminds us that knowledge is a lifelong journey, how has that idea shown up in your life and your career?
So I became a school psychologist when it came to going to school. And I'm taking it way back, but my grandfather, he always had various visions about things, and I thought that was wild and crazy, like it's the coolest movie I've ever seen. But I never believed them until I had one. And I was like 10 years old, and I saw myself walking on the school campus. And I was like, but I can't be a teacher because they keep kicking me out of class, and I stay in a lot of trouble. So, but I would love to be the kind of person who helps somebody stay out of trouble. Yeah. Because I just knew that feeling of going to the principal's office. They're going to call my dad. My dad's going to get there. My dad happened to be a vice principal where he was at El Camino High School down in Oceanside, California. And my mother was also a math teacher. So they were very strong in education. I just never felt comfortable in school. But I knew what it was like. And so eventually when I had a chance to go to school, community college at Palomar, I went to Oakwood College, a small HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama, and then went to San Diego State to study school psychology. That stayed in the forefront of my mind. Young brothers needed somebody. So it's like a full circle rather than it's just me and this lifelong journey. It's constant. You got to keep developing. You got to keep evolving. You got to keep looking for ways in which to pay it forward. And I'm closer towards the end of my career than I am at the start. So I think about okay, what's the legacy that I leave for the next person? And somebody left it for me, and I'm going to leave it for the next person.
Okay, for you, Mr. Allen, how has that idea shown up in your life and your career?
Well, it showed, of course, up in my life earlier, where of course, through elementary, middle school, high school, where you're just sitting in the class and you're basically given the information that people want to give you. I think the green light turned on for me somewhere in college where learning started to be intentional for me. And I started, instead of just accepting everything that people were giving me, started being more intentional about what I want to learn, because the more you learn, of course, you realize there's so much I didn't know, and it started to bother me. So, just basic things that seem like for everybody else, what's a mortgage? How do you get your credit? I didn't know none of that. And it wasn't taught to me. And so the only way I was going to get it is to be intentional.
Acquiring knowledge for yourself.
Yeah.
For you, Dr. Gamble, when you think back on your educational journey, you mentioned your journey through psychology, San Diego State, as well as Oakwood. What experiences shaped the path that you're on today?
As you were talking about stuff you don't know, or really even lifelong learning, one thing that I've done next to going to church, and some folks that may have a hard time with me putting these together, but these are the constants in my life: church and martial arts.
Oh,
so
nice.
I've trained since I was about 12 years old, but I was fascinated at 8. Right, Bruce Lee. And
I was gonna say, it got to be the karate movies.
Yeah, Jim Kelly would come on KTLA Channel 5, and it was really what was that movie? 36 Chambers of Shaolin. Yeah, and learning. It's a movie about learning.
Yeah.
Right. And you think you know something, but there's layers to life, and that training has really helped me. So. Before I went back to school and earned my doctorate, I went and earned my black belt. Everything you need in life is within your martial art. Right? You'll stress yourself, you'll test yourself, you push yourself to certain limits. And these are kinds of things I want to share with my students, whether it's in psychology, whether it's in education, definitely when it's up here at Cal State University San Bernardino. and our students who are on a really strong trajectory. I'm just inspired to continue to keep on learning, because the older I get, the less I'm away from that young person's experience, but they teach me now.
Mm.
I can't continue to do what I do without learning from them.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that, just how cyclical this
Mm-hmm.
lifelong learning is, not only you imparting it the younger generation, but the younger generation also imparting you.
Yeah, well, you have the Gina me sure.
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been learning more and more about the Adinkra symbols and those connections.
Yeah.
And thinking in an African way, and particularly West African way. Many of us are from West Africa, so yeah, I'm stuck on that.
Let me see. So, taking you back a little bit, Mr. Allen, what is something about your upbringing that helped shape the way you approach learning and growth today?
Oh yeah.
Me growing up, I'm from Pasadena, but I grew up in between Pasadena and Las Vegas. And my upbringing taught me that, nothing is given to you. So, when I was a kid, I was one of those kids with a paper route when they used to still deliver papers. I had a lawn service so I learned at a young age that nothing is given to you. So you can't just sit around and expect opportunities to show up and things to show up. So when it came to, just being educated, I was actually the first male in my family to go to college and complete college. Mm-hmm. And that was just something in itself. Doesn't mean that I knew more than my uncles or anything like that, because they had a whole different set of wisdom than I did. But it just showed me that I had to work for it. I was used to being in situations that were uncomfortable, as we talk about, and those are the best places to learn and grow and build on yourself. So I just learned as a young person that you gotta go get it.
I love that. And as you talk about just process and this journey of being uncomfortable to learn, I want you guys both to reflect, when was the last time that you felt like you were put in an uncomfortable situation, but it stretched you and you really walked away with like a gem? Now, it might take some time.
Oh, no.
Oh, you got it. Okay, I love that.
Which one do I pick?
Right. That's good.
It's good. This happens about every week. So I mentioned work with students, mm-hmm. and they see things differently. I mentioned the older I get, I'm from Generation X, and I was raised by someone from the silent generation. My dad, who grew up in Altadena. Yeah. But both sides of my family grew up in Altadena, Pasadena, and went to John Muir High School. Yeah. So that kind of upbringing with my father, he had grown up on a farm in Indiana, but then before he finished high school, he ended up in Altadena area. Mm-hmm. His idea of work ethic was very particular, and how you show up and how you present. And there's times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm turning into Art Gamble. Mm-hmm. But Art Gamble, he did what he needed to do for his generation. He was an outstanding educator for his generation. I don't always need to channel Art Gamble for everything that I'm doing. Yeah. And sometimes when I'm talking to students, sometimes I may have a old school moment. Mm-hmm. And they may need to say, hey, we don't approach it like this. Mm-hmm. And I have to take a step back. Or every once in a while I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm about to learn something mm-hmm. here about how to either interact with the students, how they're seeing things. And I'm learning the older I get, the more I need to pause and really listen. Mm-hmm. Because I have layers upon layers. And although my experience might help, it doesn't help if I don't listen. Mm. Right. It can go right by me if in those layers of experience can turn into walls, and you don't need that. So in order to do the work that we're doing here, to also do increasingly difficult work, right? There's fewer Black people in the state of California, right? Where many of us are leaving, although many of us have grown up in places like Altadena and Oakland and LA and many other places where there's been a concentration of Black folks. We're leaving the area. Yes. So it's harder for us to kind of pass down the knowledge and information that we need. So it's all the more important that we are able to listen to each other in this new normal, especially post COVID shutdown at least. And then all the stuff that's going on presently. Yeah. right? There's something constant, and we need to be able to stay in communication really well.
Yeah. What about for you, Mr. Allen? When it comes to a moment in your life where you were faced with uncomfort or the process of being uncomfortable, what do you feel you learned from that situation?
Like I said, there's so many of them. And as you get through them, you realize that they're coming. That's one thing you got to know, that I don't care how good it seems right now, there's some uncomfortable moments coming in. Once you know that, when they come, you can expect, this is a part of life. It don't have to bring you down to the point of giving up. The first one I could really remember in my life is when I left high school. My thought of college was you had to have a scholarship or somehow, and I went to the great John Muir High School, and I played basketball and football, and I didn't get a scholarship, so I didn't know anything else about anything but the military. So I joined the military, and I joined the military not knowing too much about the military. I just knew I had to do something, couldn't stay here. So when I got in there, 2 days into the boot camp, they identified me as what's called the recruit chief petty officer. Okay, you're the recruit, just don't know me, just you the recruit. Okay, I don't know what that is. Well, come to find out, I'm in charge of everybody that's in the boot camp with me, and it was probably 100 of us.
Wow.
I don't know no more than the next person, and then they put me in this leadership position, and I just didn't see myself as a leader. But when sometimes when things are like they say, you either called to be a leader, you're born to be a leader, or it's thrusted upon you. Yeah. And I just turned into, a leader. It was just one of those most uncomfortable positions that I haven't been in up to that point, to where I was expected to be something that I just didn't know I could be, or didn't think I was.
And as we're talking about leadership, what's something about your leadership philosophy that guides how you work with students and youth? I'll give it to you, Dr. Gamble, first.
I think students are able to step up to the opportunity as long as you provide them clear guidance to do that. And every once in a while, sometimes it's thrust upon them, and they're ready to go for it, but even then, they may still look for some guidance and support. We don't do all these things alone. Some of our theme this year has been Harambe, which means, let's all pull together, or Besi Saka, or which are a couple terms just simply meaning unity and coming together. And we've been talking about, if you're going alone, you're just out for a walk by yourself. If you want to go there quick, go alone, right? If you want to get there
go far, go together.
Go far and go together. So thank you.
I got you.
Right. See, we're working it together.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things I want to encourage for our students here. Right, more than like telling people what to do, it's more like, hey, we have this opportunity. What can we do with this funding that we have for this moment that we have it to move some things forward that have maybe been stuck, and how can we continue to look down the road? So I'm always interested in ways that we can kind of move rather than stay, but also honor those folks who came before us.
I get what you're saying. I think we have this framework of leadership, like telling people what to do, but truly, when you are a good steward over what has been given to you, then you are an amazing leader. So I'm glad you touched on that. Okay, for you, Mr. Allen, same question.
I think the biggest thing, I agree with everything you said, but I definitely, my style and my philosophy is it's not about me, right? And that meaning that, I have certain gifts. I know that they're gifts now. We all have gifts. And when you have a gift, you can't, sit there and boast and brag about it because you didn't do anything to get it. You were blessed to have it by grace, right? And so as you given grace, you have to be able to give it. And so I think, when I'm doing things, and I've never worked with students in a traditional education where I've been, the teacher or anything, but it's always been, I've been a juvenile probation officer. I work in juvenile now, and I counsel students. They're still students. And I feel like, as you're talking to them, like he said earlier, you're listening. You're listening because I have several quotes. I have several things. I even have a hug if you need it, but I need to know what you need first. And I'm not going to go in there and assume And so if I take my ego, take my presumptions, take whatever it is and remove myself and let that gift speak through me, because, then it's about the right thing.
If you are burning yourself out, you can only really give transactional work. Or if you're not connecting with students, you can only really give transactional
Just
work.
doing your job.
Yeah, but the moment you dig deeper is when we really see some transformational things happening. And so with that in mind, can you share a moment when you saw a student grow or evolve in a way that reminded you why lifelong learning matters?
Well, I will share during my time with my beloved fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, being a youth program director. We call it the Guide Right program. I had a chance to work with young men at Cabrillo High School in Long Beach School District. And so very excited to see that we had one of our first Black valedictorians, and his name is Dr. Adisa Anderson. He is a counselor up at UC Berkeley. And I'm going to go through a couple more. Another one is Dominique McGifford Sandoval, and he ended up becoming one of my frat brothers also, but he just earned his doctorate. He's a teacher and lives out in the IE, I think over by Paris, near there. And then Dr. Keon Anderson, he went to the same program I went to Long Beach State, but I met him when he was a ninth grader. And there was somebody from the school district who was at a meeting for him, and he was in special ed at the time for speech and for a learning disability. And this person was under the impression that we didn't need to talk about four-year colleges with him. We should only focus on two-year colleges or maybe a trade. And it's ninth grade. Like we just starting this thing.
Right.
And he's game for it. He's already read up on it. He's already picked his top four schools. We're going to have this discussion. And so fast forward a few years, he goes to not only Long Beach State, but he goes to the University of Southern California, same program that I went to, same doctoral program. While he's there, he meets Michelle Obama to talk about learning disabilities. And then he goes on to become a professor at Long Beach State. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And he has his own practice as a licensed clinical social worker.
Wow.
So those are just three.
Yeah.
I have about 30 other stories that are similar.
Yeah.
Right? They may not end with a doctoral degree. They may end with a senior chief in the Navy or a pilot or a school counselor, several others who are doing really good work. But watching that transformation transformed me. All I had to have was a belief that every Thursday, if I meet with you once a week, something amazing is going to happen. And I had to have what I like to call a black faith, that there would be some other folks within the community who were going to support whatever we were doing.
That's beautiful to see how you are, like you said, you have to have black faith that other people are going to step in.
Yeah.
You being one person in the village and being able to see everyone kind of encompass about this whole concept of Harambe that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Really, really taking place with these students.
Yeah.
So, okay. What about for you, Mr. Allen? Can you?
Well, again, it's because I work with students. It's a lot of different stories, and most of the time when you see it, it might be you just planting the seed. You're not doing everything, and then you might run back into them years later, and the confirmation is them telling you, what you meant to them. You might not even remember at least I don't. I don't remember the exact conversation every time, and you said this to me, that type of thing. And the fact, that they remembered it, it sounds like something I would say. I mean, I'm not but, you hear that constantly. Say Ty Rush was one of the biggest, Dr. Rush now, was one of the biggest things that transformed me in the work that I do, because, this is for anybody who's working with kids or working with people, and you're trying and you like, they're taking me for granted. Nobody cares. I'm working day and night and they don't respect. You just don't know when it's going to happen for him. Fortunately, Ty Rush all we had to do was point him in the direction, and he just...
Speak briefly a little bit about Ty Rush's story for those who don't know.
So I met Ty Rush. He was a senior in high school. He was a 4-point-something student. He was he wasn't the traditional African-American student. at San Gregorio High School. Did chess. He played on the tennis team, and he went home after school. And it was hard to find him, and it was hard to find him because he was avoiding us. And he was avoiding it because he didn't know, like, what are you guys selling? And I had to go to I actually had to go to his home and knock on his door several times in between what I thought might have been a, gang, I don't know. But it was his brother who had a studio out there, and, people were out there in the studio. But I do know at that time, nobody else would have walked through there but someone like me. Because I wasn't intimidated. I know they wasn't going to bother me. And I finally talked to his brother and said, hey, man, I'm trying to find your brother. You know who Tyrell? He's like, yeah. And then what do you want with him? What you going on? I told him what we were doing. We're trying to help him see what other opportunities he have after he leave high school. And he's a brilliant dude, and I'm like, I'm just trying to help him. So he said, hold on. And 5 minutes later, Tyrell comes to the door. And, I explained, like, first I was kind of mad, like, where you been? Where you hiding? And he was like, I didn't know what you guys wanted. And he ended up signing up to our program. And he's been a superstar, since then. But I was a part of his, part of the journey. And like I said, I can't take credit, of course, man. I wouldn't do that. I just was, part of the person who planted the seed and just steered him in the right direction. And since then, he's a doctor. He actually is active. He's an activist now. And he just, he makes me proud. And it's the reason back then where I was able to keep going, because I was ready to just say, what, man, what are we doing? None of these kids want to, and then we're there every day and they're not taking advantage. Their parents don't care, but that's not why. It's not about us. Again, it's not about you. So it helps me. Every time I talk to a kid, it helps me. Yeah.
That story reminds me of the phrase, I am witness to your greatness.
Yes, I like
that. That's what I tell my students, because I really am.
Yes.
A lot of times I just need to get out of your way, make sure other people are not being obstacles to you, and then you
clear
go
the
ahead.
weeds and let you do what you do.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about planting a seed. Sometimes, like you said, we don't get to see the fruits of our labor with the students that we interact with. Sometimes they are still pushing through, trying to learn. And so with that, I want you guys to reflect on your own journey. What lesson took you the longest to learn, but ended up being one of the most important?
I gotta do you a break.
I
feel bad.
So,
So I didn't volunteer that. Let me think. I think being patient with the journey, the path to get to where you want to be, because we all, hopefully, while you're on this journey, you have somewhere where you're going. You're getting up in the morning and saying, I'm doing it because of this. But as you get through your 20s and you think, I'm supposed to already have this degree by now. In your 30s, I'm supposed to have this job, driving this car, in this house, in this neighborhood. And you're behind schedule. And so just having patience with my own path and journey, because you look over and, I was in the same class as this dude, and it seemed like he's or she's doing, and you're comparing yourself, but you have your own journey. And I think the journey, the path to get in there is more important than your destination. It really is in the journey, the lessons that you learn, the things that you do, because you're going to need them for the next level.
Because those lessons are what sustains
everything.
you when you make it to the destination.
Everything.
Sure.
And that's what's you're going to be able to have that information to pull somebody else up, because you know what it's like, Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so for you, same question.
I think it's an ongoing lesson. And particularly because I'm an educator, it is asking for help.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
And then,
educator and as a black man.
Yeah, all those things. And knowing when and how,
Yeah.
right? So you may need help, but then let's say you ask for help, and then the perception may be that you're not who you need to be, or you're not enough for the moment, right? And so you're constantly balancing that. Our students here at Cal State University San Bernardino, if they make it to their sophomore year, especially their junior year, they've used our resources here on campus. But what we find, students who struggle the most their freshman year, or maybe even who just say, man, I'm just going to fade away and not bother with the school thing anymore, they're not utilizing the support resources, or they're not asking for help. Believing that you're worth someone else giving you help. I think that's the first challenge.
I love that you said being worthy of help as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
I like the fact that too, and to add to that, to be able to not let your ego block you from someone trying to help you. Because sometimes when people are offering, they give an offering, whether it could be money, it could be, hey, do you need this? And our egos were like, I don't want them to think I'm this or that, but that's something in them is wanting to bless you, and you're kind of taking that away. And your ego sometimes makes you believe that, oh, they must think and it's not it. Most of them, and even if it is, let that go and just take it. They receive the help.
Thinking about, and both of you guys' experiences, because I love that you addressed worth. I feel like that is a lesson that you don't end up discovering that in high school, K through 12, or college. That is really something that is kind of happens internally. With that in mind, what are some of the most meaningful lessons students learn that don't always come from textbooks or classrooms?
I think for sure, making mistakes. We've been taught since day one that, all these red marks on there are bad, and anytime, you spill the milk, and we weren't taught that mistakes are leading you to the answer. You can rule that out now. And so most people don't even try. Most young people, it's difficult to try because I don't want to get an F. I don't want to get a D. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to be laughed at. And so we were kind of programmed and conditioned to believe that we always got to be right. We always got to be perfect. We always got to be on. And if I can't be on, then I'm not going to, I'm not going to get laughed at. I'm not going to get an F, or I'm not going to fail. So I think that's one of the biggest things we got to, reiterate that it's okay to mess up. And, what you learn from, let's talk about what you learn. What would you do differently? It's okay to make a mistake.
And then for you, same question.
I think it's a decision-making process. And I found that, especially when I was mentoring young men at high school or at the college level, they would have difficulty making decisions. And I had a professor at USC, Dr. Stu Gotthold. He would say that the most difficult decision is between two good ones. So figuring out what your plan is. So the hallmark of my mentees, like the ones I'm like really deep with and talking with, and they're still calling me 20 years later, is option A, B, and C. You need to figure out. And you need to think through like what could be the plan for those three options. Right? If you get to D, that's when we'll help. Because that's likely when you need to expand your ideas, expand your options, expand your resources. But I'll help you all the way from D to Z. But I'm not going to help you with A, B, and C. Why? Because you need to know that you know. And that you know. And that's A, B, and C.
That's real.
Right? And so your confidence grows as you go and solve problems and develop. So
I love that goes to that piece of self-efficacy. And it can really only be gained when you let
you are speaking my language. I'm an educational psychologist. So yes. Self-efficacy is essential for math development. Even if you don't know math, but you start in one place and you keep developing. Self-efficacy is the key.
So reflection question for you both. What wisdom would you share with Black students who are still in the process of discovering where their passions, purpose, and career aspirations align?
I think, as we were talking about earlier, you're worth every moment, every prior moment that people have put into your being here now, and every thought that you have for the future. You're worth all of that.
I hate to sound, like a quote or a sound by where you say you can be anything you want to be, but you truly can be anything you want to be. If this is your goal, you just got to decide. Are you willing to go through the things that you have to go through to get it? And so as you put your goal at the top, figure out, like, are you really willing to stay up, nights and nights and nights to learn this thing over here and go through here and do that? And if you're willing to do that, then, but look at the journey and find out if you're willing to go, and then go. Do it afraid, do it uncomfortable, go.
I love that. I feel like that summarized all the beautiful gems that you guys dropped. Like, having that plan, knowing that you're capable, knowing that you're worthy, not being afraid to ask for help as you go forward.
And knowing is different than believing. This is my philosophy.
Yeah.
The belief is still a little bit of doubt, and you got to get to a belief. But there's a point to where you just know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you haven't seen it. You don't have no proof. You can't explain it. You just know.
Yeah.
And you got to get to that. Once you get to that point, you're float.
So I just want to say thank you guys so much for attending our podcast.
Yes.
All of the valuable gems you dropped. I appreciate you guys so much.
Awesome meeting you.
And thank you for joining the Black Student Success Week podcast with Blue.